Everybody's working for the weekend, and the weekend is almost here. Tyler Fulgham and Anita Marks. Hope you like this duo because we're force-feeding it to you today on the ESPN family of platforms. You heard us earlier on the Daily Wager podcast. You get us now right here on Bet, and there is where you may be watching right now. If you're not, go subscribe there because not only can you watch Bet at our YouTube channel, /ESPN Sports Betting, but you can get all kinds of YouTube shorts. You can get all kinds. Oh, look and see Anita. She's got it right there. It just populates your phone. All the picks, plays, wagers that you need. Copy what Miss Marks does because she knows what the hell she's doing. That's why you listen to her bets each and every time she's here on Bet. Anita, are you ready to rock and roll for a Friday edition of the show?
I'm ready to go, man. Let's kick it off, Tyler. Kick it off.
All right. Well, we're going to start by playing a little game of Take Your Pick. One day, folks, you'll be able to pick between Anita and I on the golf course, but that day still yet to come. In the meantime, we'll throw a few wagers, so to speak, at our viewers and at Anita and myself, and we will pick which we prefer. So, two teams you see on your screen right there that are identical 12-1 odds to win the entire thing, the national championship, Duke and Purdue. Anita, pick which one you prefer to place your money on.
I have to go with the Blue Devils here. I mean, this is Coach K's last season. On top of that, what do we hear? Each and every time the big tournament, the big dance starts, you want teams that are coming into the tournament hot. They've turned the corner. They're playing their best basketball. And let's be honest, that's what Duke is doing right now, right? Big game against UNC this weekend. Last time they took care of UNC, they beat them by 20 points. They look great against Pittsburgh. They look great against Syracuse. Their three-point shooting is spot on. And I like what I'm hearing out of North Carolina, and that is this team has matured in the last few weeks. This team is, you look at their ball movement is a lot better, and also they're playing a lot better defense. And I do believe they get a number one seed. So I do like Duke. I'll take Duke over Purdue, Tyler.
Well, I am on the other side of this equation. I will take the Boilermakers at 12-1, Anita. So we're at odds early on this Friday. Both teams are obviously great. Both teams have, a lottery-style NBA star. For the Purdue Boilermakers, it's Jaden Ivey, who could be the number one overall pick. What I think separates the Boilermakers from a team like Duke is the other things that they have, these other pieces that if they get hot in March, they're going to be tough to beat. Not only do they have Ivey, but they have maybe one of the tallest front courts in all of the nation. Then on top of that, they're just one of the most efficient teams in the entire country at getting buckets. They're third in the entire nation in field goal percentage. They're third in the entire nation in three-point field goal percentage. They almost knocked down 40% of their three-point shots. If you can shoot like that in March, you can beat anyone. When you have guys that stand 7'3", 7'4", like they have an Edey there in the middle, you can beat anyone. And when you have a Jaden Ivey, you can beat anyone. So I think the ACC is a little down this year. I don't know if that conference will have Duke kind of primed for what the tournament brings. I'll take Purdue at 12-1. We're off to a disagreeing start here on Bet. Let's move to the next prompt, though, to the NFL. And yes, Hall of Fame game lines are already out, Anita. The Super Bowl just ended. I'm not even done celebrating and gloating about my Rams winning the Super Bowl, but the 2022 Hall of Fame game features the Jags with the number one overall pick and the Las Vegas Raiders, who now have Josh McDaniels as their head coach. Raiders a slight 1-point favorite at this moment, March 4th, for a game that's going to take place like 4 or 5 months from now. Take your pick, Jags or Vegas.
Yeah, I gotta go the Raiders here. I mean, and both these teams, right? Like new regimes, new head coaches. It's gonna take a lot, but I still think there's some growth that needs to happen with Trevor Lawrence. And I'm expecting either Derek Carr to remain the quarterback for the Raiders, or I don't know, maybe they bring in Jimmy Garoppolo and he rekindles that relationship with Josh McDaniels. I do believe that the Raiders will have a more veteran-savvy quarterback to start off the season. On top of that, look how close they got last year. They have $18 million to play with in cap space, so they're kind of middle of the road. I think they rank anywhere between like 18, 19, 20 in regard to cap space. for this free agency. And also, they're drafting at 22. They need a corner, and they can get a lot of linemen are going to go early in this draft. And I think they can get a legit starting corner at 22, maybe Andrew Booth from Clemson.
Boy, oh boy, Anita. Here we are yet again on this Friday. I don't know what's going on here, but
Really?
I'm on the Jag side.
The
Yeah.
Jaguars?
I don't know how to
Tyler.
properly handicap a game that is still 5 months away, but to me, the Jags seem like the team that is a little bit younger and may be more likely to play some of those guys in a meaningless preseason game in August that will actually play when the games count in September. I don't know if Trevor Lawrence will see any snaps in this game, but they have the first overall pick. We'll get to that a little bit later in the show. I imagine whoever that player is at least going to get a series or two in this particular game. And again, they're still just such a young team, no matter what side of the ball that you look at. I just think they're more likely to have better players out there for a series or two, a quarter and a half in this Hall of Fame game. Plus, I'm getting a point. So for a game that I have no idea what those rosters are going to look like 5 months from now, I'll take the point in my pocket with the Jacksonville Jaguars. All right, finally, this question as we prepare for what is a fantastic-looking main event for UFC this weekend. Covington and Masvidal, over or under 3.5 rounds. You see the pricing for each. Anita, which way are you going?
I'm going to go under here because I truly believe if Masvidal is going to win, he's going to have to win by a knockout. Covington, as we know, a better wrestler, so he's going to be looking for the takedown. So I think Masvidal is going to come out guns a-blazing, and I think he's going to go for the knockout. So I'm going under here, under 3.5.
Finally, we're back together again, Boo. I am on the under here as well. And I think we're kind of lone wolves with this. I feel like most people think this is going to go the distance with Masvidal and Covington. We know that's how Covington wants to win because he has, the cardio, he'll tell you, unlike anyone else in the world. But Masvidal is a guy who is aggressive, and whether he connects or whether he opens himself up for Covington to connect, I think if the blood is as bad and as authentic as these two make it seem, those emotions could factor into this game, or this matchup, ending with a stoppage under 3.5 rounds. So take your pick. We agree on just one, but it's not how you start, Anita Marks. It's how you finish. And we finish take your pick in agreement. While we're on UFC 272, why don't we get a true expert in here to join us on Bet? Help us break down this tremendous-looking card, which you can get on ESPN+. Ian Parker joining us now here on Bet. Ian, we appreciate you stopping by. I think you're at T-Mobile Arena, which is the site of this card that you'll see here in Las Vegas. We spoke to Chael Sonnen on Monday about this headliner in Covington and Masvidal. Chael thinks it's going to be the most watched pay-per-view in the last 3 years. Do you agree that these two in this headline and the other matchups we have on this card are going to bring a lot of eyeballs?
Look, as much as I love Uncle Chael, I think he must have meant the last 3 months. Last 3 years, I don't think so. However, I do think the main events could be a great one. The co-main doesn't have too many implications towards a title shot in the division. However, Renato Moicano saves the day. We are going to get an excellent fight. The main event's going to be good, but the most exciting in the last 3 years, that's a tough one for me.
Okay, so we know the history behind these two fighters, right? Thick as thieves at one point, and then now they just despise each other. How important is it going to be to keep emotions intact? And if they don't, who do you think emotions is going to get the best of?
These two, the way they speak and the way they carry themselves, the press conference yesterday was a little crazy, but it's truly who they are. And if you've seen, they both acted this way with Kamaru Usman, and both were able to step into that cage with him and perform at their best. So do I think emotions carry weight in this fight? Yes, but I think when they both step in the cage, it goes to the side. This win is tremendous for both of them. A loss could really set one of them back very far and possibly never see a title shot again. So I think both of them are able to keep it under control because they know how much is at stake here.
All right, Ian, you probably heard Anita and I playing a game of take your pick over or under 3.5 rounds. Most people, including the market, think this is going to go the distance. The fight is minus 150 to do so. It's plus 110 to end inside 5 rounds. So do you think we'll see 5 rounds in this title fight on Saturday night?
As much as I like to be the third amigo and part of your team and agree, I don't agree. I think this does go bell to bell. I think it goes bell to bell. Colby Covington hasn't been finished, yes, in the Kamaru Usman fight, but prior to that, Warley Alves almost 6 years ago. Same thing with Masvidal. Outside of the Usman fight, it's been a really long time. The way the style of Colby Covington is, he's going to dictate the pace, he's going to pressure, he's going to clinch. His style is not much of the finishing type, and Masvidal is very hard. If Colby takes him down, I see Masvidal getting back up pretty quickly, so I think we're going to see a 5-round war, but I think it's going to be Covington who dictates the pace.
Wow. So it started out, Colby was favored by -330. That's now fallen to 310. A little bit too much juice for me, I think, for a lot of people. So with that being said, how would you play this fight tomorrow night?
Oh, I agree. In the -300s, it's way too steep, especially with the rivalry that's telling the story here. For me, if you're going to bet Colby Covington, which is the way I'm leaning, it's one of two ways. Either throw him in a parlay so you don't have to risk the 300 plus, or you take him to win by decision, which brings it down to, I believe, -110. That's how I would go.
And that's how I advise you play it as well. Taking advice from Ian Parker, who's been killing it for us here on Bet and Daily Wager when breaking down UFC bouts. UFC 272 from T-Mobile tomorrow night, ESPN Plus as well if you're at home and want to watch on your couch. Ian, we appreciate you dropping by Bet to help us out and enjoy this weekend's festivities here in Vegas.
Thanks, guys.
All right, Anita. So we stand alone, thinking that fight will go under 3.5 rounds. We hear what Ian has to say, and I do heed his advice. But maybe we can slide into something that's a little more our wheelhouse than mixed martial arts. The National Basketball Association back on our docket for Friday. A couple of games that you can see on ESPN tonight. We'll dive into those. Let's start, though, with the team that is starting to captivate people's attention and imagination on the Eastern Conference. It's this new-look Philadelphia 76ers squad. They are back in action with James Harden, undefeated, 3-0, at home against the Cleveland Cavaliers, a team that's been really good in the Eastern Conference. They're laying 7, a low total of 216.5. Now, you see on the screen that they've done nothing but win and cover with James Harden. As you look at handicapping this matchup against the Cavs, a little bit more difficult than their last couple of games against the Knicks. How you playing this one, Anita?
It is. Listen, they're 3-0. They look great, but the competition that they face, no bueno, Tyler. So I'm staying away from picking this game and the over/under and whatnot. But there are a ton. I usually like to use the word plethora of prop bets in this game that I'm going to play because of the matchups that we're going to see on the court. And probably my favorite is Embiid over. It was at 28, went up to 29, now it's at 30 points. I like Embiid over 30 points. I also like Harden over 34.5 points and assists. I do believe that he's going to be feeding the ball into Embiid in the paint. I'm also going to play some Darius Garland over. Since he's returned, he's just been an absolute monster. And Mobley as well. I like for him to get a few blocks in the game. I think that him and Jarrett Allen are going to have to team up against Embiid. Very interesting. Embiid has dominated Jarrett Allen there his entire career. He's 60% from the field against Jarrett Allen. Last time he played them, he put up 40 points. He got to the free throw line. He put up 15 free throw points against Jarrett Allen. So it's a really big mismatch for Embiid. And so I think that's really where this game potentially could be won by the 76ers.
I think I like that Mobley one, given the price, plus 175, the best, because we know Embiid operates near the basket, where Mobley defends, and Harden likes to get in the paint, where Mobley will be there waiting. So love that, especially at plus 175, even though it's hard to block the shot of both James Harden and Joel Embiid. Might need to thread a needle here because you had a lot of overs. When I see the Cavs in a matchup, I like to go under. So I'm going to isolate the Cavs side and play their team total under 104.5. The reason I'm not going to play the game total under 216.5, pardon me, is I'm worried. We've seen nothing but 120-point games from this Harden-Embiid combo. They could go off and score 120, 125, even against a defense that is as dominant as the Cavs have been all season. Both these teams play at a methodical pace. They're tied for 25th in the NBA. But I'm going to isolate the Cavs side, thinking that this game does go under, but I protect myself from a 30-point effort from Embiid and Harden and the Sixers, scoring 120 and winning this game like 120 to 100. So I think this is going to be a methodical game. The Sixers, while their defense is not as dynamic as the Cavaliers, still have a really good one inside the top 10. I'm going to play that Cavs team total under 104.5. I think Philly keeps this streak going and wins this game. The 7, maybe a little bit too much, though. If I had to pick a side, I'm not going to get in the way of the Embiid Harden train right now, especially since this game is in Philadelphia, where we saw that crowd going nuts for Harden's debut. All right, another Eastern Conference matchup featuring, I should say, a couple of playoff teams that looks very interesting. The Bucks and the Bulls. This game in Chicago at the United Center, where the Bulls are 5-point home dogs. Look at that total, though, 240.5. Now, you see some notes here. Milwaukee struggled against the number in the past couple of weeks. Chicago did play last night against the Atlanta Hawks, so they had to travel from ATL back to Chicago, landed pretty late. Interesting matchup. Two teams atop the East. How you approaching this one, Anita?
Yeah, this over continues to creep up, so I would jump on it. You know, like what I like to say, Tyler, hashtag run, don't walk, right? It opened at 238. As you said, it's up to 240.5. So I'm going to play the over here. I think a lot of points could be scored because, again, you talked about the Bulls, second game of a back-to-back, having to fly from Atlanta to Chicago. Also, the Bucks, they dominate. They've, believe it or not, they've won 11 of the last 12 games against the Bulls. However, their defense has been struggling as of late. So I think a lot of points can be scored here as well for the Bulls. Ball and Caruso are still out. But very interesting. This is probably one of my favorite bets tonight, and that is first quarter for the Bucks, as well as the Bucks to be the first team over the Bulls to put up 15 points in the first quarter as well. Why? The Bucks are the best team in the NBA in first quarter efficiency. Meanwhile, the Bulls, they rank 23rd. They're 13-20 against the spread in the first quarter this season. So there's a huge advantage there for you if you do want to play the Bucks in the first quarter because the mismatch is just so evident.
All right, I like that first quarter handicapping. This game, hard for me to get around how these two teams are going to interact given the situation that they are in. I'm going to stay away from side and total. I'm going to isolate Bobby Portis. Over 8.5 rebounds, over 24.5 points and rebounds. Here's why. Bobby Portis, one of the most emotional players in the NBA. That's why those fans in Milwaukee love him. But once upon a time, he was employed by the Chicago Bulls, and the fans there at the United Center loved him. Bobby is going to be jacked up for a revenge game back in the house where his career kind of started to really get off the ground and flourish before he became a world champion with the Bucks. I did some digging, too. Bobby Portis' career points per game average against the Bulls is 14.6. His career rebound per game average against the Bulls is 9.0. That's 9 games he's played against the Bulls. That point per game average is the second highest that Bobby has against any franchise in the NBA. That rebound per game average is the highest he has against any franchise in the NBA. Clearly, Bobby has gotten up to play against his former teammates, his former employer. So I am going to bank on a Portis revenge game back at the United Center. He's in the starting lineup. We have a healthy 240 total. Box score should be robust. I think Portis is going to deliver one, maybe a double-double in this matchup, as he probably does this a time or two for that crowd in Chicago, as now he hears boos instead of cheers from the fans that used to love him. I'm sure Bobby loves that type of emotion and environment. All right, final game we're going to look at. This one follows the matchup from the United Center, also on ESPN. Phoenix Suns hosting those New York Knicks, who've been a lot of fun to watch as of late, huh? Yeah, I mean, put a clothespin on when the Knickerbockers are on TV. They are 1-10 ATS their last 11. They're traveling down to Phoenix to take on a Suns team, again, that will still be without Chris Paul, of course. Devin Booker still in health and safety protocols. But the first game they played without those two a couple nights ago in Portland, at home, they beat the Blazers by 30. Suns laying 6.5, total of 222.5. How you approaching this one, Anita?
There's a few plays here that I like. Number one, I like the under here. Why? The Knicks, they're just god-awful, but defensively, they still have the 8th best defense in the NBA, and every now and then their defense does show up. Meanwhile, as you pointed out for the Suns, 2 of the top scorers for the Suns are going to be out. So there's going to be some other guys on the Suns side that are going to have to step up. Ayton, I like his points and rebounds as well. He's going to be a big key, especially in the paint. And I'm waiting to see what happens with Cam Johnson. His numbers have not hit the board yet. I'm looking at that over three-pointers, and I'm hoping that it arrives somewhere around 2.5. because the perimeter defense for the Knicks is really their weakest link defensively. So those are some prop bets I'm looking at, and I'm also playing the under here as well. Again, both teams have solid defenses. The Suns missing a lot of their star players, and again, offensively, the Knicks have just been god-awful, 27th in scoring the last 10 games.
All right, maybe kind of need to thread the needle here. Hopefully we get a 116 to 100 final score with the Suns as the victors, because my play is Phoenix's team total over 114.5. Even without Chris Paul and Devin Booker, there's still a lot of depth in terms of scoring on this team. Ayton, Payne, Johnson, Mikal Bridges, Jay Crowder, McGee off the bench. This is a deep team. It's not just a two-headed monster. It's the reason why they were in the NBA Finals a year ago, pushing Milwaukee to 6 games. And why they have the best record in the NBA right now to this point in the season. It's not just Book and CP3. These guys can pick up the slack. They scored 120 against Portland without those two in their last game. Meanwhile, the Knicks season is just circling the turlet drain. Okay, they're 1-10 ATS, their last 11. I think they're just 1-10 straight up in that time as well. Their defensive rating over these last 10 games, Anita, is 117.5. That means they're allowing 117.5 points per 100 possessions. That ranks 28th in the NBA over that 10-game sample size I'm talking about. If this had been their metric over the course of this entire season, Anita, it would rank dead last in the NBA behind the Houston Rockets. So that's the kind of defense that this Knickerbocker team is playing right now. Rocket level or worse defense. So I think the Suns will be able to take advantage of that at home. I'd lay the 6.5 too, but my pick here, team total over 114.5. Even without Book and CP3, they should be able to score on a Knicks defense that has been very accommodating as of late. All right, let's stay in the association and drop it down to the prop market. But we're going to engage in the prop market with a little game of place or pass. Anita, I'm just going to throw some props that are on tonight's board with some high-end all-star caliber players, and you tell me if you're going to place or pass this bet. Let's start with the Utah Jazz all-star guard, Donnie Boy Mitchell. They're in New Orleans tonight taking on the Pelicans.
You mean
look
this?
at that. I didn't even notice.
You mean this?
I mean exactly what you're rocking. So I have a feeling, I know which way you're leaning with this. Place or pass Donovan Mitchell over 26.5 points tonight against the Pelicans?
Man, I am placing this. Ever since he's gotten back from his injury, the dude's been balling out, averaging 35 minutes a game, 35 points a game. As we know, the Pelicans defense, dare I use the word soft? Yeah, I mean, he's got a great half-court matchup against McCollum and Jones. He should win that. And I love check out what his over and three-pointers are. I think it's 3.5. Pelicans are one of the worst teams, worst defenses against the three-point shot. So I think Donovan Mitchell goes off tonight. That's why I am wearing that gentleman on my shirt tonight.
Of course, you're going to place that with the Donnie Boy shirt on. I agree with you. I'm going to place it. Guy has scored 30-plus in 4 of his last 5 games. The only one he didn't, he scored 26. So right on this number, which has moved from 25.5 to 26.5 throughout the day. So I agree with you. I think you place that bet on Donovan Mitchell. Let's stay in the Western Conference. Reigning league MVP Nikola Jokic and co. are taking on the Houston Rockets at home. They're a massive favorite. And I just talked about how the Rockets are dreadful defensively. Plus 140 for Jokic to record a triple-double. Place or pass?
Yeah, I'm passing on this. Full transparency, I made a nice chunk of change this season betting the triple-double for him throughout the year. And if you've done that every time he's suited up, you've won as well. But unfortunately, as of late, no bueno. He only has 1 triple-double his last 5 games. This has the chance of being a potential blowout. So what happens typically? He doesn't play maybe the last 15 minutes of the game. Maybe he sits the last 7, the last 10, and he's lacking in assists. That's where the triple-double is not hitting for him. So big pass here for me. Take it from me. I look for the triple-double from him each and every time he suits up, and it's not winning as of late.
I'm going to place it. I don't love the price. I wish it was a little bit juicier, but I mean, you do not get a better matchup for a triple-double in the NBA than take it on the Houston Rockets. I agree there is concern that his minutes may be capped because they're like a 13-point favorite. They're probably going to blow him out. However, that doesn't mean Jokic can't record a triple-double in 28 minutes. He's done it before. And again, the Rockets, the fastest-paced team in the NBA, first. The dead last team in the NBA in defensive efficiency and rating 30th. You cannot have a better matchup than this team. And if somehow, some way, the Rockets keep it close that Jokic has to play in the fourth quarter, well, that's bonus minutes on the board to get those rebounds and assists. We know the points will be there. The rebounds will probably be there. I agree that the assists are what we have to worry about. But this is a team in Houston that allows you to score a lot of points. So anytime Jokic is passing the basketball, which he likes to do, it's a good chance his teammate he passes it to is going to make a shot or score a bucket. So I will place it, though I wish it was closer to like 175, 180. But, I mean, come on, it's the Rockets. Jokic can get a triple-double against his team in his sleep. All right, another big man, Karl Anthony Towns and the T-Wolves taking on OKC in OKC. His point prop at 26.5, Anita, even money there over our place or pass on him to go over it.
I mean, listen, if you watched him in the All-Star break, that three-point shooting contest, immediately you want to be like, oh my gosh, yes, place this bet, even money, I'm all about it. No. Pass for me here. Pass for me. This is a OKC. They've been playing better defense. Teams are only averaging, only 109 points against them. Okay. Not sure if Wiggins is going to play tonight. Obviously, he plays, helps them defensively. But over 26.5 has only hit once out of Towns' last 5 games. So I'll tell you what I do like. If you told me that I could bet the over 10.5 rebounds, I'm all over that. I'll place that because he's leading the team right now in rebounds. I think he's going to be a monster in the paint in regard to rebounding tonight. But no, hard pass for me in regard to over 26.5 points.
Well, this is getting awkward. I'm going to place this bet with Karl Anthony Towns. I'm placing them all here tonight. I like the even money price. And I agree, there is a little bit of a concern, Anita. There's a little bit of a concern with the way OKC's been playing defense. They actually, even though they're a bad team, they play some decent defense, and they don't, sprint up and down the court like the Houston Rockets do. So that's the one concern. However, there are 2 things that outweigh it on the other side. First and foremost is that Anthony Edwards is out for this game. So that's a guy who averages 20-plus points a night. And if he's not playing, Karl Anthony Towns is going to assume a lot of the responsibility for making up for those points lost by Anthony Edwards. So too will D'Angelo Russell. The other thing is that when the Wolves are on the road, like this game in OKC, their games usually go over the total. This one's at 229.5, and that's a pretty healthy total. T-Wolves games on the road, 25-7 to the over. That's almost 80% go over. So if we get 230-plus points in this game, I think there's a good chance Cat delivers at least 27 of them, especially with Anthony Edwards on the shelf. So that's why I'm placing it like the price at even money as well. All right, time to end the show with a sucker bet. You know the drill here. Give the people a bet that may sound like it's sweet candy off the start, but when you think about it further, whoa, this is not a bet you want to take to the window. I'm actually going to go first here, Anita, because this is something I've kind of been pounding the table about. I think anyone who's rushing to the window right now to bet Evan Neal as the first player taken in the 2022 NFL Draft is kind of being a sucker. Now, look, he's the odds-on favorite at -120. And it's not that Neal doesn't deserve it. Just flip on the tape and watch him. The guy's a freak of nature. 6'7", 335, 340 pounds, moves like a guy half that size, and played at Alabama. But I don't think the pricing makes sense for the other very credible and legitimate threats to be that first pick. At his offensive tackle position, I think NC State offensive tackle Ika Mekwonu is the best prospect at offensive tackle. Then there's Kayvon Thibodeau out of Oregon, who for 3 years has been considered a consensus can't-miss #1 overall pick. I know they need tackle more than pass rusher, but the Jazz could use a pass rusher, still get a tackle later. I'm just saying, for the threats that there are to Neal, -120 is not a good price. That's a sucker bet to me.
Well, then call me a sucker, okay? I mean, listen, I've been talking to a number of scouts. We know the combine's been happening down there all week, even before the combine. Neal is a once-in-a-lifetime generational player. I'm sure, and folks that are watching, if you haven't, do yourself a favor. Google him doing the box jump. It's otherworldly. It's like, it's something to witness. The athleticism, the size, all of that, the footwork, everything is just, so calm. Then I'm a sucker, Tyler. I'm a sucker, because I'm telling you what, Jacksonville's going to draft him to protect their all-star quarterback, Tyler Lawrence. Trevor
All
Lawrence.
right. Listen, it's not that he's not deserving. I just like the price of Aquanu at plus 400 versus that price of Evan Neal at minus 120. A little wine bet for us, Anita, as we head into the weekend, as we get ready for the NFL draft coming up.
You got it.
Great stuff this week. Enjoy your weekend. We'll see you back here Monday on Bet.